ask the people to hold this topic until the very end of this meeting.
Time for lunch.
Feel free to turn off your cameras since Ulf is not able to eat. Would be unfair to eat in front of him.
Yeah. So for everyone who joined, you can already try to access the Miro link. You can see some people already joined the board. And you can choose either to just click on the icon with my name that you follow my view, or you just follow the presentation in the Zoom window. I think there is some hack that I can bring everyone to my view, but Steffen, do you have an idea?
Yes, click on your own profile picture and bring everyone
to me. Super. Okay, shall we wait still a little bit?
No, just start.
All right. Okay. So welcome to this small webinar on effective meetings. I prepared a small Miro board for the presentation to make it a bit more interactive. Okay, let's go. First, I would like to start with a small check-in. Asking you 3 questions to get a sense of well, how familiar, how competent you are with meetings, how relevant is the topic for you. To answer, simply pick one of the smileys at the bottom and place them on the scale of 1 to 10. 1 is not competent at all. 10 is you could run the webinar better than I. Second question, how many hours did you spend in meetings last week? Simply pick one of the post-its here and add a number. And the third question then is, and again, use the smileys there. Did anyone ever teach you on how to run meetings? And I think we're a small group and it's just 3 questions. So I think that should be pretty simple and fast. That helps me to get some context and get a sense of the relevance of the topic. Okay, so there's the first 16 hours already. It's quite massive. I'm not sure what the schedule is with DPS this week. I remember there were weeks with more meetings and weeks were intense on doing stuff. But I would suspect most of you spend quite an amount of time in meetings typically. Okay. 20 hours max at the moment. 12, 15, 16. Average competence level. I'm glad no one wants to take over the webinar. Okay. I saw a typo at the hop. That should be at the job. Some educated yourself. So that's great. Everybody seems to have at least some base knowledge already. Great. Okay, I can see like you consider yourself average competent in terms of meetings. That's good. So hope I can help to level up a little bit after this small webinar. Seems to be a relevant topic for most of you because you spend substantial time in meetings every week. And yeah, same as for me, you were educated at university or the job, or you have educated myself. I mean, for me, it was really only on the job, the hard way. And luckily, I found there's lots of good literature podcasts and articles on this topic because I think it's super relevant. So let's move on to the next slide. We've seen already that it's a relevant topic because most of you spend a lot of time, and that matches also with some of the statistics that are out there. Found one which I found quite interesting, and I could also relate. Which said like typical employees spend attend 62 meetings every month. Unfortunately, 50% of those are considered waste, which is a really mind-boggling figure. And 92% of the people do multitasking during meetings. So you're obviously allowed to do multitasking now, as this is a lightning lunch meeting. But for a real meeting, this is one of the reasons why a lot of meetings are really poor. And found this nice post here from Corporate Rebels describing the real meeting agenda. And while I found it super funny, the sad side, this is also quite true and not so far from reality. And I experienced a lot of these observations in many of the meetings that I have attended during my career. So why are meetings relevant then still? If most people say they have too many, or I'd say they have too many bad meetings, it's because, we just still spend so much time in meetings. It's just a fact that meetings are a large part of your professional life. I have to admit, I'm actually a big fan of meetings because I think they are really relevant for synchronous type of discussions. They are elementary for collaboration. And as a product manager, I think meetings are also a great way to get decisions and to also get commitment from the people that you work with. So from that sense, I think they can be super useful. The last point, meetings can also be great time savers. I think this applies not only to product managers, but for everyone, because they help to get decisions done, and with that bring clarity, context, and also focus. Few words about me, why I think I'm qualified to talk about this topic. So you heard already, I'm a product manager. I spent about 20 years in corporate environments, worked for big corporates such as NEC and Sanyo, now Panasonic, Micronas, now TDK, and I work with big corporates and other tech companies such as Intel, Advantech, Raspberry Pi. Also an agile coach. Actually, I'm an alumni of batch 13. I know we also had quite some meetings back then. I'm a father of 6 kids, so lots of meetings at home also. We call that lunch and dinner. I love podcasts, and my qualification when I got these, or when I found these statistics, I did the math, and according to this, I spent approximately, or attended approximately 15,000 meetings in my career, which means I spent 1.3 years in meetings during in my professional life. And unfortunately, I probably also wasted 7 months of my time, and what is worse, years for my colleagues. So how can this be done better? The first thing really is the preparations and some questions that you should ask yourself when you schedule meetings. The very first is really, do I really need a meeting? And what is the goal of this meeting? Related to this is the question, what type of meeting is it? Is it to inform? Then you should go back to square one and ask yourself, do you need this meeting, or is there a better way to inform your colleagues and to align with them? There's, of course, also decision-making and problem-solving meetings, which I think can be super useful. So in these cases, you should think specifically about who's needed for this meeting. Is this the right people to take a decision? Is there people that need to be involved in the decision making? What tools do you need to accomplish what you aim to accomplish in this meeting? Whether it's on site, face to face, or also online. Is it a simple presentation, or do you need some more collaborative tools like Miro, for example? What is the best time to have this meeting? Not only for preparation, but also considering when are people most open to have a meeting. Me, for example, I try to keep my mornings free from meetings because that's a time where I can really focus well, and I prefer to do focused work rather than discussions or group work. What tools do you need in a decision-making meeting? It's not only the digital tool you need, but also the method that you use to come to this decision. Especially when you want to limit time for decision making. Obviously, you need to have the information on hand, and everybody should be informed and prepared. But it's also good to have some methods in mind that can help to go for faster decisions like voting. And I think the by far most relevant thing is the agenda that you should prepare, because that helps you already to think about all of these questions listed above. And this gives clarity, context, and ideally already also the goal for the meeting. So how to prepare an agenda? What I notice is a great method, especially when it comes to decision making or problem solving meetings, is to create the agenda by using questions. So other than I did here on the right side, put questions as agenda items, because then it's already clear what is the desired outcome. So instead of preparation could be what do we need to prepare? Or instead of running the meeting, you would say, how do we run the meeting? It's important, obviously, to apply time boxing to your agenda items. And a great hack that I discovered a few years ago is, instead of putting the time per agenda item, the duration of the agenda items, is to put the starting time in front of the agenda item, because that helps everyone to understand whether you're still on track for the agenda, because then you simply compare the time listed there with the actual time. The agenda should obviously be added to every invite. So I know people who decline every meeting that doesn't have an agenda or a clear outcome. So if the agenda doesn't make the outcome clear, you should make the desired outcome clear in your invite. Make sure that also people who own certain agenda items know that they're supposed to prepare or facilitate a certain topic. And another hack, which I think is super important, especially when it comes to decision-making meetings, is to pre-wire with the stakeholders who participate in this meeting. So there's nothing worse than you setting up a meeting, getting all the people in the room discussing a topic, and it's the first time that they hear, or they surprise you with something that you haven't seen coming beforehand. So if it's important meetings, take the time to talk one-to-one to the people participating, especially the ones who are in the position to take a decision. And if it's for longer meetings, I really recommend to do breaks every 1.5 hours at least, to make sure that the energy level stays up. You've seen this nice picture for me that was actually taken in a very long meeting in Japan. So the excuse is the time difference. How do you call that? It's not a hangover, but yeah, you just get sleepy at a certain time. And if the meeting then jet lag, that was the meeting I was, that was the word I was looking for. Thank you, Stefan. So jet lag, but it's also if you attend meetings that last for hours, the energy level drops, and in the end, you don't get good results. Starting the meeting, then make sure you allocate some time to set the stage. First of all, it's important to start on time. This is one of the things that people will memorize and will memorize over time. Is positive. If your meetings start on time, you will stand out from the crowd. I recommend to use check-ins also at the beginning of meetings. Small questions that can already create a good atmosphere that help you to make sure everybody is also mentally part of the meeting. May help to discover also if somebody is maybe not in the best state to participate, and you know that it's better to know that upfront. Run the people through the agenda. They should know the agenda because you shared it in your invite. But it's a good opportunity to also make people feel more involved by asking them if there's anything that they would like to add. If you're well prepared, typically there aren't too many changes, but it's just a way of involving people. And what I found is super helpful in meetings if you also make the agenda visual throughout the meeting. So as an example now, how I did on my slides, put a small agenda somewhere that the people know where they are, what's still coming, and again, where are we in terms of timing. For longer meetings or workshops, I also would recommend to set up ground rules. I mean, this can be something that you can agree with your peers also once. And once this is done, it applies to all further meetings. And if I say ground rules, that's like no phones, no multitasking, no PCs. If we do video calls, should the camera be on or off? What about the mics of the participants? It's great to develop these ground rules together because then again, everybody feels involved and doesn't feel like there is some artificial rules that are imposed to you. So if possible, make it a group activity. And as a facilitator, you can, of course, always add things that you feel are also important. When we're then in the meeting, yeah, this is the arts of meeting facilitation. Again, agenda time boxing, make sure you stay on time, actively involve all the participants. If you can, it's always great to assign certain roles to different people. So it's quite demanding, especially in longer meetings. If you're the facilitator, if you also need to do timekeeping and note taking. So if possible, assign this to maybe your colleagues. Voting, as I mentioned earlier, I think is a great tool in the meeting also to speed up decision making. There's lots of voting mechanisms or methods. So that's something worthwhile exploring prior to the meeting. A great tool is the parking lot. I'm not sure if you heard about the parking lot. The parking lot essentially is a tool that helps you to stay on time. You can simply add like an additional 5-10 minutes to the end of every meeting agenda and call this the parking lot. And whenever in a discussion you see that the discussion goes off topic, you can refer to the parking lot and ask the people to hold this topic until the very end of this meeting. This way, you can make sure that you stick to the agenda and at the same time, people can still get heard and the topic that they raised doesn't get lost. But it's a great tool really to avoid that somebody really breaks the whole agenda. I think it's also really relevant to visually capture during meetings, especially when it comes to action items, to make sure everybody has the same understanding. It also creates more commitment if you visually capture things, and it also helps to create better understanding of topics. And if it's action items, you should capture in the form of who does what by when, which is super simple and probably also known by most of you or all. And the last thing for conducting the meeting, I can really highly recommend is finish early if possible. So if you scheduled the meeting until, in our case, 1 o'clock, try to finish a few minutes earlier. Again, this is something that will really make you stand out from the crowd. If your meetings start on time, they finish on time, or they even tend to finish earlier, people will really be much more likely to join your meetings or to be happy to join your meetings because you're saving them their precious time. Closing the meeting then I think is super straightforward. Wrap up, check if anything has been missed. Don't open up discussions at this point because you want to finish on time. Important to recap on the agreed action items because that creates really commitment. If necessary, try to schedule a follow-up meeting right in the meeting because especially with a lot of participants or distributed participants, it can be super painful to find a common date and time where everybody's available in an asynchronous way. I've been in so many email trails or Slack going back and forth. What is the right time to have this meeting? If you have the opportunity that everybody is on the table and you already agreed to have a follow-up meeting, then schedule it during the meeting still. And what's also great or a great opportunity for you to improve, also do a small checkout at the end of the meeting because it's a great opportunity to gather feedback and to improve. And also leaves the whole thing on a lighter note. Some further resources. I added these into the sheet. You can look at them later. There's this link to the blog article where I found these interesting statistics from Otter AI, nicely illustrated also. There's a great cheat sheet from a small Munich-based consultancy, two ladies. They're called Lead Venture. I think it nails all the elementary things for preparing and running a meeting. And you can download it from their webpage free of charge. To me, put a link to Manager Tools, Effective Meetings. It's quite old, from 2005, but this was eye-opening to me in many regards, and I think it still holds true today. So it's kind of a timeless thing, and you'll probably find some of a lot of the recommendations that I did in this podcast as well. And more further reading is the topic of silent meetings, which I have never done myself, never experienced. Maybe you heard this is, I think, originally invented by Amazon, Jeff Bezos, but I think a lot of other tech companies use this technique. Meanwhile, essentially, it's preparing a small paper prior to the meeting with all the relevant information, decisions to be made, and the first part of the meeting is spent by everyone silently reading this. Yeah, from what I read about this should be super efficient in terms of shortening meetings and having more results in the end. So explore this if you're interested. Okay, then trying to keep on schedule. I'm done
Ulf,
with content.
Sorry, Ulf, are those resources supposed to be linked in some way? Because I can't
think when
find
you because I think when they're locked, cannot. Yeah, this one is a link.
Yeah.
And I think the other items, if you click on them, there's this source that lead you to the original source.
Okay, thank you.
Here, yeah. Okay, then I'm done in time for this small webinar. I would be super grateful if you would leave some feedback on this webinar. First, maybe just quickly 3 things you learned today that would be super interesting. What are the things that were relevant for you? And if there's anything you think that could be better next time, I'm super grateful for this as well. And I think we have like a minute or so still. I can be available also for longer time. So if there's questions, remarks, we're a small group, so we can also do this just live.
Thank you very much, Ulf. So anyone's got questions or wants the rest of us wants to point out other valuable resources or anything? No, you just want to finish your lunch. We're all busy reading the nice links. Okay, then thank you very much. Thanks for your time. Thanks for preparing this, Ulf.
You're welcome.
How should people reach out to you if they have questions afterwards?
Yeah, I added my contact data here at the bottom. So there's the LinkedIn profile. I think you had it also on the invite. You can also find my email there and my phone number.
And for how long will you keep this board open?
I can keep it open for, let's say, I keep it open for another half an hour. So maybe if you want to save some of the links, maybe do it right away.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Have a nice Friday. Enjoy your weekend.